Oh, oh, oh. साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। Om. Offering my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our dear Sai, who, with His infinite grace, has physically come, walked with us, inspiring us with a very simple message of love all, serve all. But he has had his unique ability of infusing the same message decade after decade in his own unique way that was required to inspire and instill faith in those who were blessed enough to be his devotees, walking at the same time as he did on this planet Earth. And we have one such person who is with us this Sunday on the Sai Govind Satsang series, whose journey started where she had the fortune of seeing her father blessed with the infinite grace of Swami. And moving on, she too has been blessed to be uh, an instrument at his lotus feet. We are extremely fortunate and blessed to have Auntie Shailaja Krishnamurti today with us. She comes from a family uh, having been born and brought up in Kerala, with her father being the principal of the Trivandrum Engineering College, later on becoming the director of technical education on the Kerala University. Her father subsequently set up the Regional Engineering College in Calicut and served as the first principal there before retirement. And what more blessed a retirement can one have when he moved to Bangalore and by Swami's grace was chosen to be the state president of the Sri Satya Sai Institute, Satya Sai Seva Organization of Karnataka, while her mother remained a Sevadal and the head of the Mahila wing. Auntie Shailaja was extremely blessed to know Swami from the tender age of 10 when Swami visited Trivandrum in the 1950s. Blessed by Goddess Saraswati and Sai Mata, she has been uh, fortunate to learn music from the from the lineage of Semmangudi Srinivas Iyer and has been blessed since her marriage in 1964 when she moved to Chennai to be part of the Sundaram Bhajan group since its inception and continues to be part of it even today. We might have all have heard her wonderful singing in the several Sundaram bhajan tapes that were something that we used to look forward and we still look forward every year. And she was also the convener of the Mahilas at Sundaram for a few years. Over the years, she has been bestowed with many interviews, wonderful experiences, and all these will be shared over two sessions in the week today, uh, in today's satsang, and the one following the same next Sunday. As excited as you are, I am to listen to Auntie, and it's over to her now to take us through those wonderful days of growing up in Kerala with nothing but Swami and Swami and Sairam. And Auntie, you have to unmute yourself.
Is that okay?
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. At the lotus feet of my beloved Bhagwan, with utmost humility, I offer my pranam. And Sai Ram, to all my Sai sisters and brothers who are listening now, I am really grateful to have got this opportunity and this great privilege to be with you all in this satsang, Sai Govind. My special thanks to all the organizers, especially Mr. Brother Venkat, and of course, Brother Satya, with whom I've been in touch for the past few occasions. And I have known Satya from Sundaram days when and we have really enjoyed singing his compositions, and I cannot forget those days. Yeah, it's a matter of real joy. I basically wish to share with you all in this satsang my own and that of my parents' interactions and experiences with Swami, and how he has helped us to tide over ups and downs in our life. There have been a lot of it, in fact. I can only narrate a few because there are several occasions when he has really tested us and taken us out of also of this difficulty. That also I should, we are the really blessed ones. And I feel by listening to many of these experiences, it really and hopefully strengthen one's belief and faith in following the guidelines that Swami has set for all of us. And of course, we all know that one must start and develop an inclination and intuitively believe this path shown to all of us by our Swami. And that with that mindset, and that will hasten, I believe that it will hasten our spiritual progress in our present life. That sincere and unshakable faith is what we should pray for. That is really the most important thing that we should be asking Swami. Whatever he does, we should take it that it is for our good. Of course, Swami will give us a lot of tests, but Swami, I'm sure, will give us the strength to bear also and come out of it. And that is his duty also. When we pray to him sincerely, it is his duty to guard us and take us out of this well of painful life. And here, one small story comes to my mind, which actually has appeared in Chinna Katha that Swami himself has narrated, and it goes like this. And before that, I would like to say one thing. Swami, many a times, most of the time when he used to speak to us, he would speak to us always in Kannada. And many a times he has told my mother and father, Kelbeku, kelade yenu sikkalla. That means you must ask for it, you must pray for it, you must crave for it, you must beg him. Only then that will be given to you. So nothing comes just in a plate like that given to you. No, you must have that faith, that surrender. Everything goes together, and only then Swami will give you that. He will uplift you definitely. That is for sure, because we have ourselves seen this, we have experienced this in our life, in many instances. And at this point of time, I want to share this Chinna Katha which Swami has himself narrated. Many of you may know, but I always enjoy telling this story because it revolves around a small boy who had such a lot of, that unshakable faith, which we all lack, I think. The moment we undergo some difficulty, we always say, oh, Swami has let us down. No, Swami doesn't let us down. It is our own making. Anyway, I will just tell you the story. That is, it goes like this. There was a small village where for months together, and maybe some years also, there was absolutely no rain, not a drop of water to drink. And for the people, the cattle, everybody, then no water to drink. Everybody was suffering. And absolutely dry outside. Everything was dry. No plants were growing, nothing around. So cattle, how can they survive without water and fodder to eat? Anyway, everything, they were all in real trouble and real difficulty. And everybody was trying their best to seek the God's blessings. And in the midst of that small village, stood a small Shivalinga in the open, directly under the sky, and under this hot, scorching sun, it was standing there. And elsewhere in the village, Pandits and all renowned scholars, they were all busy performing other rituals and pujas, seeking that God's grace should be poured on them in the form of rain. And of course, nothing had happened. And in that situation, in that really bad situation where people were craving for rain and water, there came a small boy. That in that village, there was this boy, I think, was a very small boy who had not had, I think, a bath for several weeks or even months together. And all he was wearing was soiled old clothes, really dirty clothes. But he didn't bother about that. He came and he saw this Shivalinga sitting there directly under the sun in the scorching heat, wearing all the heat that Shivalinga is sitting there under the sky. And he immediately said, oh my God, Shiva is sitting under the sun. And what am I going to do? How will I protect him? So he took out his soiled clothes and put it on the Shivalinga. And then immediately thunder, lightning, everything came and rain started pouring down. And this clearly shows, that boy really believed that Shiva was a living person, had life, that Shivalinga had life. And it was not just a stone sitting there. Many a times, I think, we really forget this aspect. Many times we go to the temple and we are lost in some way, some thoughts, but no, that actually we must really crave for Swami's blessings. That's what we should be asking. And Swami has often told us, you must ask and only it will be given. Here, I must say that, Tattungal Tirakkapadum. That means knock on the door and it will be open. One day it will open for you. Maybe it will take weeks, months, years. We don't know how many even lives, how many things we have to bear. We do not know. May not be in this life at all, in this Janma at all. But then it will happen one day. And then it Kelungal Kodukkapadum. That means whatever we ask for, it should be in such a way that we should have earned it. We cannot say that, oh, I have prayed Swami should give it to me. No, we should also earn it. So that is the way I would look at all these things. And secondly, in my case, I owe I must owe my pranams to my parents, because particularly my mother, who was my first guru, who showed me this path to Swami. She was literally the person who took me to Swami, because my father was made in a different way. She was a very spiritual person, but my father really very highly educated, but a very lovable, honest, disciplined person. And He believed in the motto, work is worship. For him, nothing else mattered. Whether doing puja or whether going to a temple really didn't matter much to him. Well, he thought living a righteous way and work is worship is that is what he would always follow. And Swami has given us darshan, sparshan, sambhashan, and many personal interviews. He even visited our house in Trivandrum, Calicut, and Bengaluru. I'm sure each of us would have felt Swami's love, his energy, and in one way or the other, his vibrations, everything in one way or the other. Here, I have come to share with all my Sai sisters and brothers my journey with Swami, which started in Trivandrum, where I was born. Exactly this particular picture you saw just now was taken in front of our house in Calicut. Yes, now of course there are no pictures taken in Trivandrum because it didn't even occur to us. I think we were really stupid people. I think I don't know. Anyway, what to call ourselves and nothing but that. And so I owe my pranams to my parents, and they would often visit Tirupati and Palani. And at that point of time, my father did not even believe that a human being could come in the form of an avatar in this Kali Yuga. Our Sai could even come in the form of a human being. In this Kali Yuga, he never even imagined that such a thing could happen. And our family was very close to the then governor of Kerala state, one Dr. B. Ramakrishna Rao. And especially their family was also very close to us, his wife and his daughters, and they had a son, Satya. They were all very close to us. In fact, we moved like a family. And then when in the year 58, when I was a little girl, maybe 10 years, my father was informed that one Satya Sai Baba is visiting Trivandrum. And he was going to stay at the Raj Bhavan in the governor's residence. I was even told on an earlier occasion, maybe 1 or 2 years before, they had a son, as I told you, they had a son called Satya, named Satya, and he had some health issues. I think he had hernia, and doctors had suggested surgery. But as Swami devotees, as very devoted person, and Dr. Ramakrishna Rao was a very devoted person. So he must have been really blessed person, and by his Swami's grace, he came down to Trivandrum, and I was told later on. I was told that Swami performed the surgery, and that too without any instruments. So really, they are really blessed persons. That's all I can say. So my father, being a government servant, being a government official, was required to be present as part of the reception committee. That was a protocol they expected those days. So he cannot refuse it. To welcome Swami at the airport, because Swami was visiting Trivandrum for the second time, as I know. He was going to be received at the airport. He was, I think, coming from Bangalore. My father had to go through this because, with a little bit of hesitation in his mind, because as I told you, he never even imagined Swami to be an avatar, and maybe thought in his mind, oh, why should I go and receive such people who just wear orange robes? Maybe that was running in his mind. I do not know what was running in his mind. But as I know him, a person who says work is worship, I'm sure that would have been his mental state of mind. Anyway, my parents were interested in Carnatic music, especially. And, when they, of course, my father went to the airport, Swami came, and he went to the Rajbhavan straight, and of course, my father returned home. And none of us accompanied him. We had wonderful opportunities to have every bit of that moment to be enjoyed and seek his blessings. No, nothing. We didn't make use of any of those minutes of joy. My parents were really interested only in Carnatic music and came to know that brothers Rama and Lakshmana were accompanying Swami, and we knew that they were very good musicians, Carnatic musicians. And one Sri Raja Reddy was also accompanying Swami, and he was also a very good singer. And that, of course, we heard him sing later on. And so, at the invitation of Mr. and Mrs. Ramakrishna Rao, we started attending Swami's spiritual discourses and bhajans. And usually after bhajans, Swami would give a discourse. And of course, there were very few people in Raj Bhavan. Maybe we can count on our fingers. So this was the first step which we as a family took towards Swami without even realizing that this was going to be the beginning of our lifelong journey with Swami in this Kali Yuga avatar, Sai. So without our knowledge, we have done all this. When I think back, I can only compare myself to those frogs sitting in this dirty water in a pond and croaking all to themselves, not knowing what to do. They do not, and we are like frogs. I am imagining myself to be a frog that day, where a lot of beautiful lotuses grew. But we did not see the beauty of the flower, nor did we make an effort to see the beauty, which is right on top of us. We are right down below in that slush and water. But we do not know what the beauty of that flower is, nor do we know the taste of that nectar, which is there in this flower. And a bee comes from somewhere, from some far away distance, and she or he realizes the beauty of this flower and tastes the nectar also and enjoys the beauty and the taste of this nectar. And all this we have missed out. And all this we could have utilized, and this divine vibration, energy, everything to the fullest, and missed out everything totally. As I told you, the gathering in Raj Bhavan was usually very small. And every evening, we missed out all darshan in the morning because my father was busy going to his work. And we as ladies, we did not go out to, especially go out to the Raj Bhavan and to get Swami's blessings or anything. And then in the evenings, of course, we would go. And every evening, Swami called us for an interview. And of course, we were only talking about mundane things like, little health issues and so on. And Swami would just brush it off, saying that, yes, it's okay, it will go away. And we had very good neighbors. We were really fortunate to have very good neighbors in Trivandrum. One was Dr. Bhaskaran Nair, and the other was Mr. Natarajan. They were also in the university, working in the university. They were, of course, Shirdi Baba devotees, so they knew something about Baba, that maybe they knew that this avatar is the avatar of Sri Shirdi Baba also. Of course, we were not even prepared to I mean, we didn't take the interest to even know about it. Anyway, they were making preparations to call Swami to their house, you know. They wanted Swami to visit their house. And in those days, as we all know, Swami would visit devotees' houses quite often. And we all lived in the same locality, so we were all neighbors. They were proposing to invite Swami, and in fact, both of them wanted to do Pada Puja also. And the first visit, and of course, at this point of time, I want to tell you, my mother also in her mind wanted to invite Swami to our house, but knowing fully well how my father will react, whether he would really welcome it, my mother did not have the courage to even tell Swami, please come home. So she just had it in her mind to herself, all to herself. So, but then we came to know that these two people are thinking of inviting Swami. So when we went in for an interview, Swami says, Maneg Barbeko, all in Kannada. As I told you, Swami was always speaking to us in Kannada. Manege Barbeko, Bartini. That means you want me to come to your house, I will come. How sweet of him. He knows he's Antaryami. We don't have to tell him everything every time. And he knows the situation very well. And he fixed the time, the date, everything. And that date came. And I'll tell you about that a little later. And he even told us in his interview that it will be a very pleasant thing to accompany Swami everywhere. And he even asked us to accompany everywhere. So the next day, Swami was going to Kovalam Beach. I don't know how many of you all have been to Kovalam Beach. It's a beautiful beach near Trivandrum by the side of the Arabian Sea. And so then, of course, Swami went in his car. And because Swami had asked us to accompany him everywhere, we also thought, more out of curiosity and fun, I think my father would have decided to follow Swami. And we went in our own car. And it was, dusk time. Swami went on walking along it's a beautiful coast. So Swami went walking all the way in the coast. And we were just a few of us, maybe about 20, 25 people. And of course, later on, some fishermen also gathered there out of curiosity, I suppose. So after a long walk on the coastline, Swami sat on the sand with the devotees present there. We also sat there. So he started talking about Krishna. He just thought, he just opened this topic of Krishna. And he wanted to have everybody's opinion on Krishna. Of course, most of the people didn't open even their mouths. And Swami himself was elaborating the meaning of Krishna. He said, Krishna means beautiful, attractive, and winner of hearts. He is a cosmic musician. And the tune he creates with the flute that he plays, the transcendental flute, is the embodied by his cosmic energy. So he was just explaining the flute, what all the 8 holes meant, everything he was explaining. And at the same time, as he was talking, he was making a small mountain, a small mount. I won't even say, I can't say small mount or anything, just making a heap with his hand, with the sand. And as he started making this, suddenly from the sand, he took out a sandalwood idol of Krishna. It was about, I would say, 10 inches in height. He took it out and he even removed the flute that Murali Krishna was carrying. and described all the significance of the Murali, everything he was explaining to us. Of course, I, as a small girl, I don't think I would have paid any attention to all those details. Of course, that was Guru Purnima day. So that was a very big surprise waiting in store for us. And you know what that surprise was? He asked for a small container and somebody brought it for him. And all we saw was Swami's hand just pouring from his hands. I saw a few drops pour, some liquid poured into that small container. It was a silver container, and a few drops poured into that container from Swami's hands. And immediately there was such a nice fragrance, coming out of it. And Swami immediately gave that divine nectar, that amritam, as we call it now, to everyone present there. In fact, all of us, all the devotees, so-called devotees, and even the fishermen were so lucky. They were the blessed people also to receive this amritam from Swami's hands. Each one of us got from Swami's hands. So that was a very big surprise and blessing we got on that Guru Purnima day. And another occasion, which I must tell you, is when I got this amritam, was in Whitefield after some years, of course, which I don't remember the year, but I know I enjoyed that moment. Yeah. Then, of course, this next day was visits to all our houses. So first he went to Bhaskar Nayar's house. That is how it was all planned. First Bhaskar Nayar's house, because that was the first house in that compound. And second was Natarajan's house, and the third was our house. So Bhaskar Nayar's house, that lady, she was a Nayar lady, so she didn't know much of these, these things that we usually do, like putting rangoli or making arrangements for a puja, and that too they had arranged for a Pada puja also. So all these things they didn't know how to go about it, and how to make prasadam for Swami, and all these things they were not very sure. So she took the help of my mother. And in that, of course, I also went with my mother. And so as soon as Swami entered their house, I thought the best way to welcome Swami, my mother thought that the best way to welcome Swami was by singing a composition by Tyagaraja in the Ragam Shankarabharanam, and I will just sing one or two lines, which I can. Rama Ramana Rara, Rama Ramana Rara, Rama Ramana Rara, oh Rama Ramana Rara, oh Rama Ramana Rara, oh Rama Ramana Rara, oh Rama Ramana Rara. As we were singing this, when we sang oh like that, Swami immediately repeated those lines, oh like that, something to that effect. And we thought Swami was really ridiculing us. So we really stopped singing. I don't know why we did that. Because when he said, oh, like that, I thought Swami was only ridiculing us. So anyway, we stopped abruptly. And then he came inside. But of course, he was not happy to have any fathers, Pada Puja and all. So he asked my father to remove all those things which were kept for Pada Puja. And he even said, everything should be in this mind. All bhakti, everything should be in this mind. So it was all removed. And Swami spent some time sitting in the chair. He enjoyed the prasadam that we had made for in their house. And after spending about 40-45 minutes, he visited um, the next neighbor's house, Mr. Natarajan's house. And of course, we did not go there because we want next house was going to be ours. Swami is going to visit our house. So we thought it is better we get ready to welcome Swami. And so we did not see what happened in Natarajan's house. Anyway, then as Swami was entering our house, yeah, we took courage. Okay, Swami has ridiculed us, doesn't matter. We will sing the Anupallavi. The Pallavi was Rama Ramana Rara. We welcoming Swami. Now we thought it is for us to sing the Anupallavi. Whether Swami ridicules us or not, we will sing. So that much courage we had gathered. So soon the Anupallavi goes like this. Samanamevatu Samanamevatu Ni Samanamevatu Ni Samanamevatu Vinoma Manavini Samanamevatu Vinoma Manavini Tamashopagada Tanamakupakichini Tamashopagada Tanamakupakichini Rama Ramana. After we finished the Pallavi, Swami looked at us, laughed at us, and said, Samanam evaru? Chepu chepu. That means what we understood was, oh, you are comparing me, oh, to the Lord. Yeah, Samanam evaru. There is nobody to equal you, Swami. That is what we were trying to pray for Swami. And that was the way we wanted to welcome Swami that way. And of course, Swami came inside. And my mother had prepared some dishes. And of course, we knew that Swami liked drinking coffee. Those days, I think Swami really enjoyed drinking coffee also. A few dishes were made. And Swami partook a little of all that. And he sat down in that decorated sofa. And after that, of course, as he was entering, he saw a picture on the wall. That was Surdas Ke Shyam Manohar's photo. That was the picture we had hung. No, these pictures you are seeing are from Calicut. We didn't have any picture taken in Trivandrum. No, these pictures are actually from Calicut. So I'll go to that later. So then, looking at that Surdas Ki Shyam Manohar, he said, Bhakti na ipdidan. Bhakti, hige irbeku. That means, Bhakti means Surdas Ki, he was comparing Surdas Bhakti. He was a blind man, as we all know. So he was just immersed in his music with his tambura. So actually, Krishna is sitting right in front of him. This is the picture we had put in that wall. And Swami is seeing that and telling us, Bhakti, it should be like this. So that was something which I thought I must share with you all. And then when he came and sat in the sofa, he was nearly for an hour or so, he was in our house. He spoke mainly about spiritual matters. And he even mentioned that my father will not make a decision to go to Swami or even Puttaparthi. But when he finally does, at some point of time, he will not look back. So that will be the day his life will be with Swami. And that is exactly what happened. Years passed by, and only then did my father actually started visiting Swami and Puttaparthi. Anyway, I think that is how we were destined to have that. Sankalpa was like that. Without his Sankalpa, we cannot enter Puttaparthi, nor be with Swami. Anyway, and he also said in the passing that, looking at my father, he said, the local people will try to bring down the downfall, his downfall. That is my father's downfall. And the reputation he had amassed because of jealousy. But he assured my father that Swami would always be with him, guiding him, and therefore no harm could come to him. And will leave this state, Kerala state, with all honor and dignity and happiness. But at that point, my father, as a very honest officer, he was wondering what disrepute can bring. I mean, what can happen to me? I follow only path of righteousness, dharma. This is all what I practice. So what can happen to me? And he did not take it very seriously. Oh, maybe Swami is saying something. Okay. And but it did happen, I tell you. It did happen after 10 years later in Calicut, where he was the principal of the Regional Engineering College. And I shall elaborate this incident a little later. So the next day, Swami asked us, as he had told us, Kaka, accompany me everywhere. So he said, he asked us to accompany him to Kanyakumari, that is Cape Comorin. I don't know how many of you have been there. Anyway, I'll just tell you, it is the congregation of all the three oceans. That is the Arabian Sea, the Indian Ocean, and the Bay of Bengal. That is the congregation, that is the meeting point, that is the end of the land, end of land. And Dr. Ramakrishna Rao, the governor, was going to inaugurate the Kerala guest house, government guest house. And the next day. And we were all going along with Swami. So naturally, we all stayed with him in the Tamil Nadu guest house, which was adjacent to the newly built Kerala guest house. So this was a real wonderful experience, being with Swami and having food with him and enjoying all the bliss. Of course, then nothing, we didn't really see the avatar in him. We really enjoyed everything with Swami. That's all I know of. And the miracle that we witnessed, that I must share, it is even to this date, it is still in my eyes. That is, Swami, yeah, you are showing that exactly. Yeah, I think you should have taken it from Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Yeah, this is exactly what happened. Swami stood by the side of the ocean. The waves were literally touching his feet like Pada Puja. And Swami remarked, and we were all just a few people surrounding him, not many people. And Swami remarked and asked us to watch how Samudra Raja was going to welcome him and pay his obeisance. Of course, we didn't know actually what was going to happen. We were just a curiosity. We were looking at what was going to happen. And then we saw Samudra Raja bringing in one garland after the other. It was actually pearls, green pearls. I even thought I saw a light bluish pearl necklace and a white one, maybe 2 or 3. I don't remember properly. But one after the other, the waves were bringing it and literally putting it on Swami's feet as though doing Pada Puja to him. And one of them was given to somebody close by also. So this miracle we witnessed in our own eyes. And as a girl of 10 years old, I remember it still now. And another miracle which I should definitely tell you, it's really giving me goosebumps even now. That is, we witnessed Swami bringing out Kanyakumari Devi's nose ring, diamond nose ring, which was actually put into the ocean. The story is like this. He took it out, and in fact, he said, he took it out, showed it to all of us, and said it should go back to the place where it has come from. So, in fact, he threw it into the ocean once again. So, he took it out, showed it to all of us, put it back into the ocean. And he said openly that it should not be taken out, it should be where it is to go back to its original place. The story is like this. I don't know how far it's really the happening that happened. I'm not very sure of this. But what I heard later on was that Swami did not narrate all this, naturally. What I heard was, I don't know how many of you have seen this Kanyakumari temple. This temple faces the ocean. And Kanyakumari Devi is also facing the ocean. And there is a big window just right in front of the Devi's idol. And Swami is wearing the bright diamond nose ring. And it is said that those days, this window was kept wide open, facing this ocean, and a ship which was crossing that way could see this diamond really glittering like a light, maybe mistook it for a lighthouse. And it even came so close that there were a lot of rocks there, so it even capsized. So this is what I came to know later on. And the Devi herself, Kanyakumari Devi herself, came in the dream of that priest of that temple and asked him to put that nose ring into the ocean. So that is why it was put into the ocean, and that is the nose ring that Swami took out and showed it to all of us. So this is the story I have heard. I don't know the authenticity of this. And every evening, we were writing there for about 2 days. Yeah, maybe 2 days. Swami took us all, again, a very small group, to the sand dunes. Sand dunes means small hillocks of sand by the side of the sea. And those days, I have seen with my own eyes, red sand, jet red sand, green, black, and some of those granules even look like rice pearls. I believe there's a story which I cannot recollect now, so I don't want to say something which I do not know fully. So all these I have seen with my own eyes, all these colored sands I have seen. And on those sand dunes, Swami would walk along the sand dunes. And a few of us were present. And he suddenly sat down in a particular place. And he materialized a green stone. He showed it to all of us. And within seconds, it was sitting on a gold ring. And you know what Swami said? It won't take much time for my goldsmith to make all these things. And as he was showing this ring, green stone ring, he suddenly looked at Chandrasekharan Nair. He was the ADC to the governor, because that's all protocol which requires, somebody accompanying the governor. So he looked at Chandrasekharan Nair and he even gave it to him. It was a little loose for his finger. So Swami, he said, and Swami nicely took it out, such a sweet Swami. He took it out, he blew once again, and it was a perfect fitting. So he put it on his hand, and then asked Chandrasekhar Nair, Chandrasekhar Nair, Idi Emi, what is this? Then Chandrasekhar Nair was taken aback. I don't think he was prepared to answer this question. But he suddenly said, Swami, this is your Shrishti. Then Swami said, Kadu Kadu, Shrishti Kadu, Ma Sankalpam. This is what Swami said, Sankalpam. See, my interpretation, I'm taking it like this. You know, there are several people blessed with lot of powers in our holy land of Bharat who can materialize things, and many people may have also seen. I don't want to go into these details, but whether they are permanent in one's hands, whether they can do something which is meant for the purpose which it is given to somebody. All this I do not know, nor do I have that capacity to go into all these details and examine all these things. But I know from my own experience what Swami gives. If Swami gives something, it gives shanti, peace, and something else. Maybe they had some physical problems, some mental problems, some monetary problems. Maybe all that would have taken care of. And the vibhuti he manifests can cure diseases, many types of diseases, even cancer. Cancer is cancelled. So all this I will interpret only in that way. But whatever Swami does is from his sankalpa. It is not his srishti, as the others are perhaps doing. I do not know. But I beg to, I do not know about this, so much talk about this. So to witness all these miracles was a lifetime experience, a gift, I would say. But at that time, it did not leave much impact on us. Maybe the veil of Maya was blinding all our eyes. It didn't allow us to see the avatar in him. We were only seeing him as a human being. As Swami always said, without his will and sankalpa, no one can realize his divinity. Yes, very true. Every letter, yes. No wonder we could not see the avatar. It was right in front of us. And every minute we could have enjoyed much more, which I think went under the bridge, like water flowing under the bridge. Well, nothing can be done now. My marriage was another miracle. Swami, in fact, which I want to share with you all. My marriage itself was a miracle. Swami appeared in my mother's dream. When we were just paying a visit to Mysore. That was the day when Swami appeared in my mother's dream and finalized the groom then and there. He said, go see and meet such and such a person. And this is the groom. Your daughter is going to marry. And this is my husband, Krishnamurti, here, sitting here by my side. Yeah. After marriage, of course, I came to Chennai in the year 65. And one neighbor of ours, we were in a joint family. And one neighbor, Miss Shanta Raghavan, she was a very old devotee of Swami. Maybe she had seen Shirdi Baba also. So she heard me singing bhajans in our in-laws' place. And she took me to one Mr. Damodar Rao's place in Kasturibai Nagar. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Chennai. Anyway, it's close by. It's a locality close by where I stay. She took me there. And Mr. and Mrs. Damodar Rao, a very sweet couple, very loving. And in fact, they treated me like their own daughter. And I would sing bhajans there. And I really enjoyed going there. And I met Girijamma. You must all be familiar with Girijamma, one of our very old singers in the Sai Sundaram Bhajan group. She was in fact instrumental for starting the bhajan group, as she has herself told all of us in one of the interviews, that Swami told her to start the bhajan group, and that is how she started the bhajan group. So I met Girijama there in their house, and of course she heard me sing, and then she said, "Why don't you go to Sundaram?" Of course, Sundaram was not there in this the way we see it now in the temple. That was not how it was. It was just a small house-like building, and we were not allowed inside the building. But we had there was a shed by the side of the house. That is where we would gather for our bhajan sessions. And because Girijama said, go there and meet one Mrs. Kamala Sarathi, again, a very old devotee of Swami. She would play violin for the bhajan group. In fact, until her last days, she was in our bhajan group playing violin for all of us. And so I went to Sundaram, that shed where she would be there on Thursdays, and I met her there one of the Thursdays. And she asked, there were a few other people also sitting there, another few ladies, I mean. It was just a ladies' bhajan. And I went there, I sat there. So she asked me to sing a bhajan. So I wasn't really quite prepared with any particular bhajan, but suddenly something told me to sing this bhajan, and I started this bhajan. Raja de Raja, Raja Gambhira, Raja de Raja, Raja Gambhira, Raja Martanda, Raja Kumara, Raja Martanda, Raja Kumara, Ramo Ramo Gana Manohara, Pankajalochana Partivihara, Pankajalochana Hridaya Vihara, Raja Dhi Raja, Raja Gambhira. So this is my first bhajan, and this is how the journey also began. This is my bhajan journey. This is how it began with our Lord. And to this day, as Brother Venkat said, it is continuing with his grace and with his blessings. So Swami always used to make frequent visits to Chennai. And at that time, there was no organized bhajan group like the one we have now. So there was no regular practice sessions or regular bhajans where a lot of devotees would gather. Nothing of that sort was happening. Only Thursday's bhajan. And there was no combined bhajan also. As I remember, it was only a ladies' bhajan. And before Swami's visit, we would often visit, gather in Venkata Muni's for a practice session. Venkata Muni's house was in Alwarpet. You may be all aware of his name. Jalajamma, Venkata Muni, and Sushilamma. And Abbotsbury in Mount Road. Swami would always visit Abbotsbury. Most of his discourses were there. Bhajans would always be there. And Swami would always visit Gindi and Perambur temples. And the discourse and bhajans that were in Abbotsbury was all, and I was fortunate enough to be present there and sing in front of Swami. Now I'll tell you about the first interview that Swami gave us For our family, it was in Puttaparthi. Maybe in the early 60s. Yeah, I think it was 60s, early 60s. My mother was entering the interview room. She had a bit of hesitation in her mind, a doubt if she was doing the right thing, the correct thing. Because our family deity was Lord Venkateshwara. So am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right place? So she suddenly lifted her head only to find a huge picture of Lord Venkateshwara hung on the wall just behind Swami. So this erased all the doubts in her mind, whether she has done the right thing, whether she is in the right place. Everything was erased in 1 second. And she got the assurance that Baba was Venkatachalapati. And this Kali Yuga avatar, he has come in the form of, Swami. Venkatachalapati has come in the form of Swami. So to be very frank, my parents and our family, we were blessed with lot of interviews, a number of interviews over the many years that followed. But not once have we seen that picture again on the wall. So maybe only that day to erase all the doubts in my mother's mind, Swami must have appeared in that form, in that picture. That's all I can tell. So Swami immediately, my mother fell at the feet of Swami and loudly said, Twameva matacha pita twameva, twameva bandhuscha sakha twameva, twameva vidya dravinam twameva, twameva sarvam mama deva deva, tasmat karunya bhavena raksha raksha jagatpate. So saying, she ended that shloka. Swami immediately said loudly, looking at her, Anyatha sharanam nasti, twameva sharanam eko mama. So what did Swami say? Anyatha sharanam nasti, twameva sharanam eko mama. That means give all your prayers to him. Surrender to him. Anyatha sharanam nasti. You are the only savior. Twameva sharanam eko mama. You are the only savior. You are my, I owe all sharanagati to you. So this is what he had to convey to Amma. But at that point of time, little did we know, we thought he was just completing the shloka. That's all Amma could think of. Oh, Swami is completing the shloka, which I forgot to do. Little did we know at that time that if you develop this unshakable faith, surrender, sharanagati, you will get what one is craving for. And I can relate this to only the Bhagavad Gita, not in Bhagavad Gita actually. In Bhagavatam, Draupadi finally got Krishna's attention when she was being humiliated by the Kauravas in the open court. She just raised her hand, both her hands, and called out loudly for Krishna. That is when Krishna came to her rescue. So I suppose that is what Swami expects of us. That full faith, that bhakti, that surrender, that sharanagati is what Swami expects of us. And only then, I suppose, we are even, what can I say? We are even worthy of receiving his blessing. So this aspect of sharanagati See, which I told you, at that point of time, we thought Swami was just filling up the gap, filling up the shloka. But this aspect of Sharanagati became very clear to us in our own life when he put us through many tests and many ordeals, many occasions, health, all problems you name, we have gone through. But he has not let us down. He has taken us from this deep well also. He often said, when you are in a deep well, cry out loudly, Swami, come to my aid, come to my rescue. And he will come, he will come. I will share these incidents one by one. The first one I wish to share is the problem that my father faced. That is when he was in Calicut. Yeah, I think I can illustrate better if I have some pictures in front of me. And my father is right behind Swami to the right side with a little bit of a bald hair. Yeah, he is my father. That is my Calicut house. And the first thing I want to share is the problem that my father faced in Calicut when he was serving as the principal of the Calicut Regional Engineering College. So as I told you, Swami had warned him long back that he would face problems out of jealousy. People would try to bring disrepute to him. But he had warned us that he will be always with him, looking after him, and even assured him that nothing would happen to him. Under any duress, nothing would happen to him. Nobody will be able to even touch his hair. This is exactly what he told my father. Nobody will even touch your hair. I will be with you. Trouble started growing up and escalated to so fast that my father, these are all pictures taken in my house. My mother is standing by my father, and Swami is there in our house. And he was under great duress. My father was under great duress and mental agony. Yeah, this is the way they were welcoming Swami when Swami was entering our house, our compound. And I'll tell you all that about it little as I'm proceeding now. I'll tell you. And but as I told you, he would always tell no harm would come to him. And my father always had the feeling that somebody was following him right behind, like a shadow or a bodyguard, in fact. And nobody would dare come near him. He would walk in the night, he would walk in the morning, he would walk in the afternoon. Nothing, and he would not take the car to his from our house, which was in the campus, to the place where his office was. It was pretty long distance, but he would walk it. He would not go by car. And people have even seen a hooded cobra in our house, in the compound, in the front yard. You know, it even took a pradakshinam of the house one day, and my mother is just following the cobra as though it's nothing to be feared about. She's just following the cobra, and the cobra took a nice pradakshinam of our house and went back to its this thing. So one evening, when they were under this, agony, mental agony, my father received a call from Ooty that Swami was going to visit our home in Calicut, in Chatamangalam. That is the official, the campus where the Regional Engineering College was situated. And the next day itself, Swami arrived, as mentioned, as he had told us. And they did not have any time to make any arrangements to welcome Swami, because there was absolutely no time. This was the phone call we received was in the evening, and the next day morning, Swami even told us where he should be met at a particular place. He should we should meet him. And from there, our car will accompany Swami's car. Everything he had made it very clear. So my father and my brother went there waiting for Swami. And Swami came, and this is another miracle. In fact, Calicut, the devotees of Calicut were long for years together. They were waiting for Swami's arrival, Swami's darshan. But it had not happened. I think that was the day which had to be. And what a miracle. The Pandal people, that is, the Pandal means it's a big thing erected when a big dignitary comes. And the banana trees, the floral decorations, the Nadaswaram, the Purna Kumbham, and even Veda Gosham. Everything was standing in attendance. I don't know who brought all these people. How did people come to know that Swami was visiting our house, and that too far away? Chatamangalam was clear 25-30 miles from the city, Calicut. They were all in attendance as Swami was coming in. And Swami entered. Swami sat there for some time listening to the bhajan. All the devotees they were singing bhajans. He sat there listening to the bhajans. Then came inside, and he straight entered our puja room, my mother's puja room. And he materialized a beautiful locket. On one side, it was Shirdi Baba, and on the other, it was Satya Sai Baba. And after a while, it was almost afternoon, lunchtime. So Swami, my mother asked Swami to partake a little bit of food, which Swami agreed, and Swami took very little. As we all know, Swami's ahara is only devotees ananda. We all know that. So Swami took very little of everything. And we had actually prepared food maximum for about 100 people. We didn't expect a crowd, such a big crowd. Actually, about 400, 500 people, I believe, had gathered that day. We had never expected such a big crowd to come in from such a long distance, especially. As I told you, Shatamangalam is far away from the city. And that at that time of the lunch, it was lunchtime. So naturally, nobody can go back home and have food. Just and it never happens like that. When Swami is there, Swami will make it sure that everybody gets prasadam. So Swami said, now serve food for everybody. My God, my mother was really taken aback. How am I going to provide food for such a big, a big gathering like this? Then, of course, he reassured herself, Swami will look after, why should I worry about it? Swami luckily came into our kitchen because we had only vessels that could prepare food for 100 people. But luckily, Swami came inside, look at all the vessels, they're full of food, and then said, come on, now serve food, give prasadam to everybody. So I think everyone had prasadam. And later on, we came to know that not a single person went back hungry. Everybody had taken their food, prasadam. And it's really a miracle that really happened that day. And as Swami had said, my father was given a grand send-off because my father had decided to leave his post, and he was given a grand send-off. Of course, every time my father was in touch with Swami, how he should proceed, whether he should tender his resignation or he should continue. But most of the time, Swami would say, no, don't give resignation. I will tell you when to do it. So maybe Swami had given him that indication. And so Swami, my father said, Swami, I would like to call it a day. I want to resign. Swami said, okay, Santosham. Santosha. He would always say Santosha. And when he left the campus, he was given a rousing send-off. The students and the staff members all lined up as the car passed through. They went to Bangalore straight from Calicut. So once in Bangalore, Swami personally spoke to Dr. Gokak, who was the then Chancellor of Bangalore University, and asked him to offer a job as postgraduate professor in the Bangalore Engineering College. And much more than that, of course, my father served for a few years as the postgraduate professor in that university, and later on he served as postgraduate professor in a college in Mysore also, all at the instance of Swami. Without Swami's permission and Swami's blessings, nothing happened to my father. And he was responsible for getting all these posts. My father never made any effort, and he got it all through Swami's blessings. And then, of course, Swami made him, and the Karnataka state president of Satya Sai Seva organizations, and he made my mother as state Sevadal convener, state Sevadal chief, and they were in this divine service, I think, for more than 10 years, and they were provided accommodation also in Swami's ashram, inside the ashram. It is W4B17, which I can never forget because we have made several visits, and we are really lucky that Swami gave us that accommodation. This bhajan I am going to sing is recorded in Sundaram cassette also. This is the only bhajan which I have composed on my own. Of course, my mother has composed quite a few, and this is one of them which the only one which I have composed on my own. This also came to me in my dream as I was just getting up from bed. This bhajan came to me, and I have sung this for the cassette. Govinda Gopala Narayana Hare, Govinda Gopala Narayana Hare, 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 Govinda Gopala Narayana Hare, Jagadodhara Narayana Hare, Bhakta Uddhara Narayana Hare, Patti Puresha Narayana Hare, Patti Puresha Narayana Hare, Narayana Hare, Narayana Hare, Narayana Hare, Narayana Hare, Narayana Hare, Jai Jai Narayana Hare, Narayana Hare, Jai Jai Narayana Hare, Jai Jai Narayana Hare, Govinda Gopala Narayana Hare.
Swaminath, for bringing all of you here today. Absolutely amazing to connect to those Trivandrum visits. I remember reading it some weeks ago on the students' blog spot from where I picked up the photographs just now.
Yeah, that was really a surprise, a very big surprise for me. Beautiful, yeah, very nice picture, yeah.
Yeah,
Swami standing by the side of the ocean.
And all I can say is I do not know how many of you agree with you. Every week, I can reiterate that at the beginning of the talk, I have no idea of what the talk is all going to be about. I have no idea of what the introduction I make. It comes based on what he has to say. But
Yes,
within the first 10 minutes, something that either I discuss or runs into my mind gets reassured in the speaker's opening remarks. I do not know how Swami manages that every week in and out, every
yes,
week in and out. And I am as excited as every one of you here to listen to those amazing songs filled with devotion and the experiences to come next week. Thank you, Swami. Thank you, Amma, for being with
thank
us
you,
today.
thank you.
And we shall finish off with Samastalokas. No surprises for who the speaker for next week is. You know who the speaker is. And as excited as you are, I shall go back in the state of euphoria, finding it difficult to try to sleep tonight, but looking forward to next Sunday when we get to hear part two. Sai
Yeah,
Ram, stay.
it is my blessing and I'm really happy to be with all of you.
Sai Ram. We'll finish off with
Sai Ram.
Samastalokas.
Yeah, please, please go ahead.
समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय. Sairam everyone, looking forward to seeing all of you next week. Stay safe, praying to Swami that he keeps each one of us safe.